One regulation that we really have a hard time enforcing is encouraging people to camp at least 200 feet from water, trail, and other campers. So that's a pretty big one. The reason for this is because when you come into the wilderness, it's supposed to feel like a wild area. And so if there's people camped right next to the lake where you can see them, or right next to the trail, that kind of takes away from that. It also takes away from animals' abilities to reach water. If you're sitting right there by the lake, they might be afraid to approach the water and get the drink that they need to get. So another thing to remember when you're going into the wilderness is that you want to pack out everything that you bring into the wilderness. This includes any trash and any of your belongings. Remember, everything that you pack into the wilderness, you need to pack back out with you. Another thing that this includes that people may forget is that when you go to the bathroom in the wilderness, you need to be digging a cat hole that's at least 6 inches deep and burying it with soil. A lot of times we see instances where people don't do that. Maybe they just put a rock over it, and we as rangers have to clean this up. And nobody wants to see that, and it also biodegrades, and it's a lot better for the environment and for the water if you bury it properly. Alright, this brings me to the next regulation, which is building a campfire at least a quarter mile away from a lake. And the reason that this is a regulation is because over time people have camped in the same places next to the lakes over and over again, and they've built fires there, and so over time the area has been depleted so that there's no more dead and down wood to burn. And so what happens is the soil gets degraded, so there's no more nutrients going into the soil because there's no wood breaking down to go into the soil. And this affects everything, the plant life and the animal life. And then as a result, when people camp here now in those places that are high use, when they don't find firewood, it can be common for people to just start tearing apart trees that are in close proximity, which takes away from that wilderness character. And so we really don't want people to be building campfires or gathering firewood within a quarter mile of high use areas and lakes. One other thing that we see a lot is when people damage natural features, which usually means trees. You should only be cutting trees that are dead and down on the ground. If a tree is standing, it shouldn't be cut or hacked into in any way, even if it's dead. And this is also just, again, to preserve that wilderness character and to provide habitat for species that are using those trees that are standing. The wilderness is a special place. When you visit, you should leave no trace, as if you were never there. Help us keep wilderness wild by doing your part to preserve it for the present and for future generations.